Evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? It is Sunday, the 12th of November, 2023. Hope you're all well, having a great week, having a great weekend, and looking forward to another week. It is, of course, our Sunday night live chat, and if you've not been to one of these before, welcome along. Please feel free to join in the conversation. If you have been to one of these before, then welcome along again. Please feel free to join in the conversation. Now, tonight we are talking about what do you do to prepare your beds for winter? Do you do any preparation? Do you just leave it? Who knows? Lots of options that we'll get into in just a moment. This was actually suggested, I think it was Stuart Jackson, who actually suggested quite a bit last week. So get your thinking caps on if there's a particular subject you want us to cover next week. First of all, let's see if we've got anybody out there. Ballycillian Allotment Man is out there saying good evening. Oh, good evening to you. We've got Adrian out there saying hello. Good evening to you. Philly SPB is out there. Hello, everyone. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Graham Bolton. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all okay. Good evening to you. Gary is out there saying hi all. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson is out there. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope everyone has stayed dry. Oh, rain, rain, rain. It seems to be the thing at the moment, doesn't it? We have got Turbo Stream saying good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. We have got somebody in the Facebook group saying good evening, Richard and all. Unfortunately, when you're in the Facebook group, it may not come up with your name. So just let me know who you are at the end of your comments so I could address you personally if you don't mind. It's just the way Facebook works sometimes with trying to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Private settings. I think that's it. Turbo Stream says it's been another Super Soaker Sunday here in the Shire. I'll get into that in just a moment. My dad's out there saying good evening. Good evening, Dad. Hope you are well. We've got Bethan's Kitchen and Garden. Evening all. Good evening to you. We've got David Williams out there saying evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Ian McCragan is out there. I think I've pronounced that right. Saying hi all. Good evening to you. Digwell is out there. He's saying hi all. Good evening to you. Graham Arnold is out there saying evening, everyone. I hope you're well. Good evening to you. Nicola is there saying evening, Richard. Got out and did some gardening this afternoon after the rain cleared. Got muddy. It's always good to get muddy, isn't it, when you're out in the garden? I think so anyway. Welcome along, Nicola. Hope you are well. Hope you're doing better anyway. I know you've had a bit of a tough time as of late. It was Scott that had that comment in the Facebook group. Welcome along, Scott. Thank you so much for joining. Turbo Stream says my allotment is completely saturated, so nothing to do down there. So frustrating. I'll get into that in just a moment, actually. What else have we got? Anna Jones is out there saying evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. Scott says it should be showing my name now. It is now. Yes. Chili Kate is there. Hi, everyone from the Chili. So that's Chili Kate and Chili Phil out there. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas is there. Evening all. Hope everyone has had a great week. And I think Adrian's saying hello to everyone as always. We've caught up with the comments. So welcome along, everybody. Lovely to see you. Hope you are all well. So what do we want to get into? Let's jump into what we want to discuss tonight. How do you prepare your allotment or your garden beds rather for the winter? Do you do anything special? Now, this is quite a topical conversation. There's a few people out there who are saying their allotments are completely saturated at the moment. There's very little work they can actually do. And actually, as it does bring up a very good point, when your ground is wet, it is not worth walking on the bed. Because what you end up doing when you walk on earth, when you walk on your beds and it's wet, it squeezes the air out of the soil. It turns it into a compacted and quite not great for growing plants in. Should we put it like that? I know there is some debate because no diggers and will say actually you can still walk across a bed if you adopt no dig. I do think that does depend on your original soil type. My clay soil, not great to walk on the beds after it is wet. But yeah, What do you do with your beds to prepare it for winter? Now, personally, my initial thought with this question when it was posted is that I prefer to grow food in my beds as much as possible. So on the allotment, we have got onions, we've got garlic, we've got shallots. I'm putting some broad beans this week. We have got, trying to think what else. I think that is about it at the moment that is growing over winter on the allotment. But here at home, we've got Swiss chard going in, we've got lettuce and things, so the beds are still productive. But that's what I prefer to do. And if I can't grow veg in the beds, then I want to grow green manures. But we'll get into that as we go on. First of all, in the comments, Muddy Boots has joined. Hello, all. Good evening to you, buddy. Hope you are well. Stuart Jackson is there. I just wish I could get to my greenhouse. I have at least 3 inches of water inside of it. Get a decent pair of welly boots. I joke. As I said, we've all, when it comes to gardening, we've all got to be safe, and the garden will still be there when the weather gets better. But I've got to admit, I do try and get out even when it is wet. Nicholas says, not a great week, Richard. Back in hospital, waiting for an urgent CT scan. Sorry to hear that, Nicola. As you know, we're always here if you do need anything. You know, we are all here, happy to help. Graham says, just collected a van load of cardboard to put over my manured beds for the winter. Now, this actually brings me on to, I haven't actually listed cardboard as an option, but I did think about covering over our beds with weed suppressor membrane or tarpaulin or anything that's going to block out the light and stop the rain from washing out the nutrients. But cardboard, I use cardboard quite significantly. Normally, I use it underneath the mulch. Because it just helps with suppressing the weeds, and it is a good thing I find to do. And I'm collecting more and more cardboard as much as possible to use. It does get a little bit hectic at times, but it's worth it. It's a free resource at the end of the day, cardboard, and it can rot down into the soil, biodegradable. So yeah, cardboard, and one I haven't got on my list. Turbo Stream says, all I have done is spread some compost on a small area of a plot. Other areas have a few field beans. So Turbo Stream is talking about the green manures. Of course, they are a great thing to grow. As you know, I grow a lot of them. Spreading compost is one on my list as well. Compost, manure, well, I won't go into the other one I've got listed actually just yet. But compost or manure spreading on the beds. Now, I find this interesting. I've spoken to some people that will say they do it now, but there is a chance if we get heavy rains that all that nutrients can get washed out. I think it goes into the ground where the plants need it anyway. So there is a school of thought, and this is open to debate, that it's best to put the compost in spring when the plants actually need it. Open for debate, I know, but it is a school of thought. But yeah, compost and manure is another thing I have added to my list as well. What else have we got? Oh, that blue light is flaring out a little. Scott says, I'm mulching over winter this year with manure for the first time. I'm no dig and have normally just done one layer of compost in the spring. You know, that's not a bad idea. Putting manure down now, followed up by compost in the spring. That's not a bad idea at all. As I just said, there's a school of thought on that, and that's a good way around it, isn't it? Of course, by putting all, I don't know how many of us out there do not dig their soil. It's quite common for people at this time of year, many allotment holders, many veg gardeners or gardeners will dig all that compost and manure into the soil. No diggers just lay it on top because it just seems to work. Again, that's another thing that we could probably debate whether no dig or dig is better. I think it depends. Turbo Stream says there are some brassicas trying to grow but aren't looking great. I forgot about brassicas in the list of veg that I would have grown. Of course, spring cabbage, spring cauliflowers, and of winter cauliflowers, leeks as well. Actually, still got leeks growing in the ground too. Bally Celine says, I decided what is going to be grown in each bed, then treat each bed according, get the pH, etc. right for each crop. Yeah, Actually, that's a very, very good point, Ballysilly. And as I've said time and time again, I like to try and think ahead of what's going to be going on in certain beds. So the brassica beds, of course, we're going to want to add a bit of lime to adjust the pH for those beds. The the potato beds don't need much, but I like to get green manures in those. So yeah, by thinking ahead and writing a list of what you want, it makes a lot of sense. Graham but says, I'll leave all my manure and cardboard to rot away over winter, then put a thin top in spring. Yep, that's a good idea. That's kind of my sort of philosophy as well, to an extent. Turbo Stream says, I did some Phacelia, but that isn't showing yet. I will be spreading some leaf mold when the ground dries out. Phacelia has been very slow this year. Very slow for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, all the comments are coming in quite fast now. Let's get through these. Jill says, I go to the local bike shop and scrounge cardboard to cover the beds until spring, except for brassicas and broad beans, of course. Great. Yeah. Again, another one for cardboards. I've got I collect as much cardboard as I can now and keep throwing that on top of our beds when and where. Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Lovely to see you. Stuart Jackson says, after making the new raised bed at school, the children have started growing in the autumn. They've sown garlic, peas, onions, and broad beans. Fantastic. A lot of good stuff going on just there. Graham says, manure over the top of beds. For me, let the worms do the thing. I'm completely with you. No diggers, it's called. Let the worms do the thing. They pull that manure, pull that compost down into the soil. They create all these little channels as well, which I think helps with a drainage. Yeah, I'm completely with you. Turbo Slew says, my leeks have been pushed over by the foxes probably, so they are a write-off too. They're still edible. They are still edible. And they probably will still grow, to be honest with you. But so don't write them off or don't waste them. Sorry, swig of coffee coming up. Muddy Boots says, started spreading compost and horse manure beds as I clear them. I then put the thick black plastic sheets over the top. And it goes on to say, reduces washout of nutrients by rain, keep out light to reduce weeds, keeps soil warmer to encourage the working to keep working over winter. Yes. So what Nigel is saying, he's cleared his bed, he's harvested everything out of the bed. It's too late to sow anything in there, so he's put compost and manure and then covered it over with some sort of weed suppressing membrane. Weed suppressing membrane is normally black, so it attracts sun, which warms up the soil, reduces weeds. So when I say it attracts sun, it attracts heat, I should say, but blocks out light. So it reduces the weeds, but it warms the soil up and makes it much more workable. I think Nigel has really hit the what the ideal way to do it, or the dream to do it would be for many people. David says cardboard can be set free from the binman every collection day. Yeah. We at work, we have an entire bin that gets filled up with cardboard, and I can grab as much as I want from it. Most businesses have to pay for the cardboard to be taken away, so it makes sense to try and use it. I mean, there's so many things you can throw into that. So many things that businesses have to pay to take away. Hence why horse manure has to be paid to be removed as well. Stuart says, one of my questions again, is there anything I should keep it off? Thanks, team. Well, keep what off, Stuart? Have I missed something? One of my questions again, is there anything I should keep it off? Sorry, Stuart, can you elaborate a little? I'm not sure if I've missed anything. Excuse me. Bethan says, I've still got some crops growing in my bed, but will spread compost on top. Excuse me. When the crops come out and then cover with cardboard. Yeah, I mean, all the time there's stuff growing in the beds. I think it makes sense to try and use it. And I'm trying to think with the temperature, it's 10 degrees here at the moment. We're not quite, I don't think, we might have had a frost yesterday, but on a whole, we're not really getting a huge amount of frost at the moment. But on a whole, we're still pretty lucky that things are still growing and we're still able to harvest a lot of food. I mean, we try and harvest right throughout anyway. Um, but yeah, when they become empty, that's when we need to do something about it. Turbo Stream says, I will harvest the leeks and hopefully get something to eat from them. I'm sure you will get plenty to eat from them. David says, keep off La Stella, Stuart. I, it's I know what it's like. Sometimes you're trying to type a message out quickly and it becomes a bit tricky. Nicholas says, found 4 to 5 winter squash that managed to do it themselves while I've been away. Veg garden looks like a bramble jungle, less the half bed I weeded and covered with weed suppressor fabric. So Nicola, as we know, Nicola's got a few acres down in Cornwall, but she's had a bit of a tragic time this year, but you know it'll bounce back. It will be okay. The garden will be there when you return. So don't push yourself and make yourself injured or anything. Stuart says, sorry, I missed the question of old coffee grounds. Is there anything I shouldn't spread it around? Thanks. Okay, good question. So you can spread coffee grounds around anything. The only thing I would be wary of is using it in somewhere where you've sown seeds direct. It's unlikely to happen, but a coffee plant produces caffeine caffeine is a seed, a germination inhibitor. Chances are the coffee has got no caffeine in it, but there might be a little bit. So I would just be wary about using it around anything that that you've sown directly into the soil. That's the only thing, just to be on the safe side. Personally, it goes really well in the compost bins, and it also, I find, works quite well at reducing slugs and snails. Okay, Turbo Stream says, I did mulch around the field beans as they were accessible from the grass path. Field beans are a green manure. I'll get into what I do in a moment. There's just a couple of comments to get through. Hargrave says, keep meaning to dig up the peppers in the greenhouse, but it's still fruiting them. Harvested three really nice sweet peppers today. I harvested chilies as well, peppers and chilies outside. I'm moving them into the greenhouse now, but they're still outside and they're still harvesting. All the time they're growing, my philosophy is the same with all my plants. All the time they're growing, all the time they're not dying back and producing, I will leave them. Same as my courgettes. We harvested 2 courgettes last week. All the time they are still alive and producing. We're going to leave them until they do die back. Turbo Stream says, I'm not seeing Nicola's message in the chat. I apologize if I inadvertently blocked you, Nicola. I can't see a setting to see if I have. Check you are. I can't think. There's top chat and live chat, I think it is. Turbo Stream. Make sure you are on live chat and you should see them all. Nicola is on YouTube, so you should see it. So let me explain my philosophy with my garden, my beds, and what have you. What I like to do, as I said, I try and have vegetable growing as much as I possibly can. If I can't have vegetable growing, then I will plant out some green manures. And most of the time I can get away with that because of how mild our temperature is here. So veg or green manures are the 2 things I prefer to do over winter. But if it is too cold, too wet to try and get any green manures in, then what I would then do is lay cardboard down. They compost. I'm unable to get any well-rotted manure anymore, so it is just compost. It used to be I could get decent manure, really, really well rotted. So that was nice and easy, and I would use that. What I did yesterday, actually, I've got a video coming out this week about I'm talking about this on the podcast more tomorrow. Wood chip. We've had this delivery of wood chip going on down on the allotment, and what I did with around my rhubarb yesterday is I took a load of that wood chip, sorry, get my words out. I put cardboard down first. I did put some compost around it first as well. Compost, cardboard, and then I've covered it over with wood chip. Now, main reason I'm using a wood chip, one, because it's there, it's a free resource. I might as well use it. But two, it's for me, it's biodegradable. It will rot down into the soil, so I'm happy with that as well. So, yeah, that's my general plan. Now we could use plastic. I used to use weed suppressor membrane quite a bit over the winter to reduce the weeds and what have you. They did do quite a good job, but my complaint with them is the strong winds. They end up getting shredded and into our gooseberries and things like that. So I'm trying to move away from weed suppressing membrane or plastics as a general rule. Um, but there is something that some people do is they do nothing. They just leave their beds to do their own thing over winter. They let it go fallow, if you like. And I don't know if anybody out there it does a similar sort of thing. Let's have a look. Turbo Stream says, I'm set for all messages in chat. You should be seeing them then. Graham says, my outdoor chilies and tomatoes are still growing strong at the moment. Never heard of it in winter for me in East Yorkshire. It has been the weather this autumn has been pretty balmy. I know it's very, very wet at the moment, but it's still pretty warm. I'm just trying to see if I haven't got the. Oh, it says it's 10 degrees outside at the moment, which I know I say we're mild, but I don't think I've ever had it or known it to be this mild. And I say chilies, tomatoes still outside, courgettes even. Who's harvested courgettes in sort of the middle of November? And we are. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But just goes to show what could be happening with the weather. Toby Stream says, my growing is confined to my porch in the mushroom trays. Sowed loads of lettuce and spring onions, etc. So at least I am growing something. Good stuff. Good stuff. So Turbo Stream does have an allotment. I don't think he's got much of a vegetable garden at home, but he does have a porch where he starts off a lot of seeds. Lettuce, spring onions, great things to grow. I'm growing those in my greenhouses and in my veggie pod as well, for that matter, just because I want to try and keep all that food coming in all the time. What have we got? David Williams says, so much info about wood chip. I tend to agree with the mulch, but plant deeper than a base of wood chip. There is a school of thought when it comes to wood chip. And again, this is something else that has been debated. So I'd love to hear what you thought on it. That wood chip, when it rots down, takes nitrogen out the soil. Other people say that is not true, but I don't know. I'm no scientist. I just use it because it works. And for me, I've used it as paths. Grass did eventually grow through, so I prefer grass paths. But using it as a mulch, again, it just locks in that moisture, stops that sunlight getting in, and helps prevent weeds or reduce weeds. I think is probably the better way to say it. Reduce weeds in the future. Scott says, did you sign up to ARB Talk, Richard? I think I shared it a while back. If so, the wood chip could be from there, but they do normally call before delivering. I didn't sign up for ARB Talk. I think I've signed up for it in the past, but the trouble is it was difficult to try and work it out, to get it sorted so I could be in when they delivered. Obviously, I work full time, as you know. But the wood chip, we don't know. On the allotment, nobody knows where this wood chip is coming from on the allotment. It just keeps turning up. And because of that, it's a free-for-all. We can use it as much as we like. And we keep getting more and more deliveries of it. So I'm not complaining because it's wood chip at the end of the day. We can use it in the compost bins. We can use it as a mulch. So I'm certainly not complaining. Turbo Stream says, we haven't had any frosts yet in Birmingham. Good stuff. Good stuff. It does seem very, I mean, it's not unusual for us not to get a frost yet, but it's unusual for it to be so warm. Muddy Boots says 2.6 degrees C in a greenhouse last night. That's cold. That was very cold. We got down to 6.4, I think it was, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's. I've got to admit, I remember having to wrap up warm to go to like bonfire night and Halloween events at this time of year. For it to still be this warm, it's quite unusual. Nicholas says, I've started filling my moved shed. Keep drawing different sketches. It's always the way, isn't it? You draw, make plans, and then you change the plans as you go. But again, Nicola, and I'm saying this because of your recent hospital visits. All the time you're sat indoors making plans, you're not injuring yourself. So making plans is still gardening, as far as I'm concerned. Turbo Stream says, I don't grow at home as my garden don't see any sunshine from November till March and is full of slugs. I've tried 3 years. You're running and nothing grew. I'll have to have a look at your garden sometime, Turbo, and see if I can come up with any ideas to help. Scott says, wood chip fairy, we all need one. Yeah, they are great. They are great. David Williams said, harder first mild frost in Swansea Saturday morning. Yeah, it's coming. It's a coming, but it just seems still a bit too warm. Digwell says, I'm a do nothing special to the beds over winter. Just plod along like I do every year. No extra feed, etc., etc. There we go. I knew there was going to be somebody that says nothing, but I think, Digwell, you're probably a bit like me. You're still down there, even during the winter, where you go and visit the allotment and do a bit of work. There's some people I know who will just not visit their allotment at all during the winter, which I think is a waste. I just think it's good time to visit the allotment anyway. Chili Kate says, this year we have a mixture of beds in use. Green manures, mushroom compost, mulch, and weed suppressor membrane, depending on what will be grown next year. Very, very, very good point. It all does depend on what's grown next year, doesn't it? And a few of you have said about taking different actions depending on what's grown next year. And one other thing I thought I should mention as well, something that I do have a bit of a struggle with is producing enough compost to really get my allotment going. So I don't always have enough compost to create this mulch, which is why I try other things at the same time, such as wood chip, grass clippings, etc., etc. So if you haven't got enough compost available, you may not have that option either. Turbo Stream says, I tried wood chip around my raspberries, but won't use it again. Just using it for a few paths now. Added a barrow to my compost bin low. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing the same. I'm adding some to my compost bin. I'm using it around my rhubarb. I might do it around my raspberries as well. I'm using it around my fruit bushes, my apple trees, just because I've got it there. Right, it is 6:30, so I want to quickly divert off before it gets too cold. I want to go off to a mission video. Now, last week, as you were watching, we had a few videos sent in for our winter comfort food, and the mission was set by, I think it was Stuart again, to recreate one of these recipes that we saw last week. And I took that and did it. So let's go see what we've got. Right, guys, this week you sent me the mission to replicate one of the recipes that we saw this week, and I decided I was going to do Andrew's butternut squash recipe. So down here we have all the ingredients that I've already prepped: the butternut squash, the onions, the garlic, the chili, the nutmeg, the butter. So the first thing that I want to do is get this butternut squash into the oven just to roast. I've already preheated the oven so that can go straight in. Okay, so next I'm going to get the hob on, just a little gentle heat. Once that's fired up, there we go, and into that I'm going to throw in the butter and get that just starting to melt down. I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. I'm going to throw in the chopped onions. And just get those onions sweated down. It's nearly there, so I'm going to throw in the garlic now as well. So, and you know what? I'm going to throw in the ginger too. Okay, they are about ready, so in goes the chicken stock. And let's add in the chilli. I've used whole chilli chopped. That should just about do it for the time being. I'm going to put the lid back on and just leave that to simmer while the pumpkin roasts. Okay, so while that all does its first thing, this is the point when Andrew recommended doing a bit of housework or read a book in the meantime. Let's go give that a try. Well, it was decided that the hoovering was just too dangerous. That's why I don't do it. So instead, it's time to sit down with a good book. You wanted to see more Roxy? Here she is, ain't you? You're a star of a show these days. Let's sit down and read this book. Or not. Right, I thought I hit record just now. I've already added the butternut squash from the oven back into here, but I forgot to hit record. Trust me, it is on the go. I've also added, as a bit of seasoning, some fresh nutmeg, which we just grate into that as per the recommendation of Andrew. But yeah, everything in here, I'm going to turn the heat up a little, just to bring it up to a bit of a boil, then we'll reduce it down to a simmer and give it a bit of time. It smells absolutely delicious, to say the least. Let's give it another little stir. Absolutely fantastic smell coming off this. Right, a bit more time to do our own thing. Right, back in the studio, and here we have got a cup of Andrew's butternut and ginger soup. Let's give it a taste and see what it's like. Oh, lovely. Absolutely. That's really, really nice. So there we go. I think that is mission completed. Get your eyes, or get thinking about a mission for next year. Next week, anything that we can challenge myself to do. What have we got in the comments? So Nicola is saying, I've had the power company gardening company come around this week. They cleared trees, bushes, etc. that were obstructing the poles. They have said I can have as much wood chip as I want. Yay! Grab all of it. Grab all of it. Put it in a pile, because it does come into a lot of use. You've got the space, Nicola. Excuse me. Make the most of it. Turbo Stream says, I find weeds love a wood chip mulch, and a harder job to dig them up. I've not found that myself, except when it comes to grass. I think if the cardboard's underneath, the wood chip works quite well. Anna Jones says, I've never used wood chip myself, but do others not worry it's come from diseased trees? Does it matter if it has? You raise a very good point there, Anna. I've not worried about it myself, but I wouldn't, unless I'm putting it under trees, that's the only time I might worry about it. But the chances are after the storm weather we've just had, most of it is probably came from the storm or brought down in a storm. I would like to think if it's diseased, they would have told us beforehand or not delivered it and burnt it. More than likely, burnt it. Toby Stream says, I will probably leave the beds alone till the ground is dry enough. It's not a bad idea. One of those do nothings. Money Boots says, I found with wood chip paths, hoe on a regular basis to stop weeds, and after 2-3 years, it is good enough to add to growing areas and replenish the paths with fresh wood chip. Yes, I do find that over a while, the wood chip does rot down to a really quite good compost on its own. And it's great for soils and things. So, yeah. And we running a hoe for it. It does need replenishing after a while, but why not? I prefer grass because I want the grass clippings. Just my thought. Digwell says, has anyone ever used straw instead of wood chip on paths? Good question. I haven't. I've used straw around plants, of course, as a mulch, but we'll throw that out there. If anybody ever used straw instead of wood chips on paths. Margaret, hello. Next week's mission suggestion to come and dig over your poor old dad's garden ready for the winter. Now, I know you are no dig, but the mission is there to see if you remember how to dig. That's a mission we could certainly do if everybody else agrees, Margaret. Margaret, we spoke, I haven't spoken to you. Last week we were talking about Christmas Eve doing another pub quiz type thing, if you are interested in that. Turbo Stream says, I did that, Nigel. I seem to be infested with dock seedlings from a leaf mulch. Lesson learned. Yeah, there we go. Money Boots says, lots of people on our site stop visiting that as soon as the water supply is cut off. Same as ours from sort of now. I mean, it does get very muddy, and I can't take my van down to my actual plot anymore because it would just get stuck in the mud. But a lot of people do just stop visiting from now till about March. I understand it. It's not pleasant, but it's just the way it is. Stuart says, you're very clever being able to read a book when it's upside down. I think that's what Roxy was trying to tell me, to be honest. So I just had to have a laugh with that little skit there. Richard and Hoover, -1 nipple. Also love that range, Richard. Yeah, had that quite a few years now, our range. One of the best things we ever bought because, well, just seemed to go in with our house. Yeah, but hoovering, a dangerous thing. Dangerous thing. Digwell says, looks good. Personally, I'd use vegetable stock to keep it veggie friendly. Yes, I would have used vegetable stock if I had some. I didn't, so I just used chicken stock instead. Tastes just as good. I think Andrew last week did use vegetable stock on there. Turbo Extreme, never ever do housework, Richard. It's just too dangerous these days. yeah. Money Boot says, Richard, Chef Scott is complaining you are stealing his limelight. It was a mission. It was a mission set for me by somebody last week. I won't be, unless it's set again, I won't be doing it that often. But Chef Scott, as you know, is our resident chef on the podcast. What have we got? Nicola says, I'd have to leave out the chilies, maybe swap it with some red sweet peppers. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways of adjusting these sort of soup recipes, isn't there? But butternut and ginger is the main ingredients you want for this, for the flavour. It's delicious, I've got to say. Absolutely delicious. Nicola says, Charles Dowden uses sieved rotted down wood chip in his seed compost mix. Good idea. Good idea. It does. I mean, we've got a wood pile for where we burn woods, our wood burning. You know what I mean? Open fireplace, we got wood, but some of that does rot down, and underneath there, when we clear it out, you do get this beautiful compost. There was somebody else. He visited. a friend of mine visited one of the big wooden ships in Portsmouth, and there was somebody taking out some of the rotten wood. I can't think what, the Nelson, I think it was. Um, and the person removing the wood actually said that that would make fantastic compost. So good enough, good enough. Nicholas says Charles Dowding did. I think that's talking about straw paths, but found too many slugs and snails. Ah, okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, yes, the straw, slugs, and snails. That makes sense. Margaret says, "Chris, no problems. I am on it for Christmas Eve. Fantastic." Graham says, "Hit the like button, guys. Please help the channel." Yeah, please do hit the like. Please do subscribe. Please do click the notifications so that you know when we go live. Please do that. Please do that. Especially we're getting near the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, so I'm kind of really pushing at the moment to get to that 1,000 subscribers. Nicholas says, "I want to catch up with my plot and hopefully get a rear meadow terraced for the new veg garden. The old one will become flowers." Yeah, Nicola, as I said, because you are in hospital and what have you, you've got to really take it easy. The garden will still be there next year. Good idea to get plans in. Good idea to get plans in, but don't injure yourself. That's all I would say. I mean, I'll say the same to anybody. Don't injure yourself gardening. Turbo Stream, next week's mission: make a cap on your plot. An easy mission. I do this and plan in my head for next year and listen to the bird song. Relax a little in the winter, I say. I think it's not going to be dry throughout the week on the allotment. So that could be another option. We've got make a cap up or dig over Dad's bed. Let's see. Ballycillian says, "Even today in the wind and rain, I went to the allotment and spent time in the polytunnel washing my pots and trays. Another job done. Can't leave everything to the spring." Ballycillian, that is exactly what I think about the winter time. There's jobs that we can't leave until the spring. So the winter time is the ideal time because we've got less things to do outside to get a lot of these indoor jobs done. Sorting out your seeds, washing your pots and trays. And I always say also the infrastructure jobs as well in the allotment, building new beds are best done in the winter because then spring comes, you can hit the growing running. I always think leaving the bed building to spring is a little bit late. HMS Victory, that's the one I was thinking of. Yes, the wooden boat down in wooden boat, the big boat, big ship, naval ship down in Portsmouth. Yeah. Turbo Stream, yes, wood ash on the plot. Well reminded. I also had. Oh yes, I was talking about burning wood, wasn't I? Yes, we had that wood ash as well. Only if it's untreated wood that you are burning. Wood ash is a good source of potassium, which is good for flowering plants. So we add that to our compost bins and also to some of our beds. So yeah, good idea. Good reminder there. What have we got? Nico says, "Can't do a cup on ours, no fires or stoves allowed." We got the same rule in our allotment, but I don't think anybody pays any attention to that. No. Nicholas says, "Not overdoing, just gentle winds so far. I've been told to keep active to try and keep up the move the kidney stone on its way." Okay. Yeah, well that's good then. That's good. You do what you can do. Turbo Strip, that's no good dig well. Britain was built on tea, a flask would do, though. Talking about making a cap up on the allotment. I used to have a stove in the shed. I guess if I take the camper van, I might get away with it. That would be a way around it, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, it's up to you guys what you want me to do. We were only joking about Dad's bed. Come for coffee, though, sometime. I will do. But we could do something with Dad's bed for a mission for next week if anybody is interested or wants to set that mission. Turbine Stream says, "I love my little Metz triangular stove. little cooking stove, I think Tower Stream is talking about there. Yeah, said like many allotments, they've banned the use of stoves, the use of wood burning or incinerators on many allotments. I mean, let's do a survey. How many people are allowed to have a stove or a barbecue or a incinerator on their allotment? That's in the audience right now. Say, put your hands up if you are allowed. Keep your hands down if you're not allowed. Just to add a bit of a joke, laugh to it. HMS Victory, Muddy Boots has got question mark. Yes, HMS Victory is the one down in Portsmouth I was thinking of. There was somebody goes, or a friend of mine went and visited it, and they were doing a bit of restoration, taking out some of the rotted wood, if you like, and replacing it. And there was sort of, I had no idea when I was told this, but the wood that was rotting away or being put in the bucket to be removed looked really good, apparently, for compost. I'm going to have a sip of soup. I'm sure it was a victory. I'm sure it was a victory he was talking about. But how cool would that be to get some of that compost made from HMS Victory? How cool would that be? That's my idea. Grow stuff in it. I'm getting a stove on the side of the shed with the chimney. Yeah, well, I mean, Nicola's got, as you know, was it 3 acres of land? So she obviously has no problem having a bonfire or anything like that on her land. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So Scott says, hands up. We are allowed fires at a certain times of the year. That's more than what we're allowed. Nicholas says, I'm allowed. I make my own rules. I'd like an older Arga or similar. That would be great in Argon, actually. Yeah. Graham says, we can do anything we want on the allotments. Just got to think about of wind direction for the smoke. That's all we are told. Fair enough. I think that should go with any allotment, really. Think about the wind direction for smoke and what have you. There was I was thinking there was a news report of somebody having a bonfire that caused a massive accident on the motorway, but I think there was more into it than that. Turbo Stream says, we aren't allowed fires. I probably will keep quiet on the stove front. A couple on the plot is the best part of being allotment in the winter. That was, I mean, people may remember on my old YouTube videos when I was on the allotment, I used to have the barbecue going to start off, and I would cook up something or another while working on the allotment. It was great. I used to love doing that, and I really want to do more of it. But they banned barbecues on the allotment, so I didn't think it was wise to start filming myself doing that. But yeah, they banned. I thought it was due to the building works. I could understand banning barbecues and bonfires, to be fair. So, but banning little cookers in the shed, bit of a problem. Bethan says, I garden at home, so definitely allowed. Lucky you. Kevin Kelly, hi there, first time watching, really enjoying the show. Thanks so much, Kevin. Please feel free to add anything to the comments. Happy to see you here as well. Digwell says that was a firework. I knew there was something going on, wasn't it? A firework and bonfire that caused a massive accident on a motorway because of a smoke. Again, I'll bring it back to the fact that I think it's only right that we all consider that sort of thing when we are burning anything on an allotment. I was down a few years ago when we were allowed bonfires on the allotment. It was the middle of summer. I'd been down into the allotment and I'd walked down and I was just leaving to go home, and somebody down the bottom end had a massive bonfire, absolutely massive bonfire. And somebody playing football in the field next to us, who was a fireman, he jumped over because he was worried that it was actually something on fire. So it's got to be saying, you've got to think about these sort of things, can't you? Haven't you? Chili's Kate says, we can't store anything flammable, but we can have fires at certain times. Excellent stuff. Lucky you. Very lucky you. Oh, can't store anything flammable. I mean, you could say, yeah. A lot of things are flammable. I find that a bit generic. Ballycillian allotment man. Don't know if we were allowed, but I'm 6 foot tall and 17 stone, and no one has told me not to. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Graham says, welcome to Kevin. Welcome, Kevin, mate. And so does Digwell. Welcome. Hi, Kevin, and welcome. Always good to see new people, isn't it? Nicola says, how's my globe artichoke doing, Richard? And did you say you had some spare raspberry canes at all? Also, Jerusalem artichokes. Just need to know when you're down, and I will dig them up for you. That's all I need to know is when you're down. They should be ready for you. David says, we're allowed fires all year round. Just ask that wind direction, etc. is considered, of course. It's not by some. I burned in a drum so it can be easily monitored. That's what I used to do as well. I had an old washing machine drum, which had the vents in the side, and used to burn in that. I just think it's a shame we're not allowed it anymore, because it used to get rid of all the diseased material. Turbo Extreme says, there isn't a rule on camp stoves. Excuse me, I only use it to boil a small amount of water in my shed. No one has said anything so far. Yeah, you just got, I think anybody who's putting videos out on YouTube and breaking allotment rules, I think is asking for trouble, in my opinion, because you're giving proof that you're doing something against the rules. That's my thoughts on it. Chili Cake says, no gas, petrol, or fire lighters not stored. So what about linseed oil, which we often use on tools? And I mentioned this because I had on my old allotment site, somebody used a load of linseed oil one day. Then they threw their rags into a bag, a plastic bag, tied the bag up, and left it in their shed. And I think it was linseed oil. Linseed oil, when it's something to do with less oxygen in the bag because it was sealed, can self-combust. Yet that's never thought to be banned on an allotment. And that's what happened on the old allotment. It caught fire, and they were blaming kids when the fire brigade came out and said, no, it was this. That's how I know about it. Turbo, oh no, I've read that one. David Williams says, welcome, Kev. Top show, mate. You learn a lot here. We certainly try and learn. It's very much the way I describe this show is we're all sharing our knowledge and sharing what we do, and everyone can choose what is best for them. There's no right or wrong way. This week coming again. Let me know when you're down, and I will sort that out for you. Let me know when you're down. We'll sort that out, and hopefully add some of your knowledge, Kev. Knowledge and experience. Please do add some of your knowledge and experience. Right, I'm going to go to the sew along for this week, which was another one. I think it was Stuart again that set these peas.
Right, everybody, this week you sent me the seed to sow of peas for overwintering. Good one, because I needed to sow some peas anyway. And in this bed, I've just planted out the broad beans that we sowed last month on a sow along. They're doing quite well. I'm quite pleased with them. So, without much ado, let's get on and sow these peas. Right, so here on the allotment, in this bed that has got quite high sides, I've already hoed the bed, but there's a few leaves and what have you left behind. I've created a sort of ridge in the garden, a drill if you like, a line in the soil. We are on a hard clay soil. I've said time and time before, hard clay soil isn't great for sowing direct, but it'll be okay for what we want to do at the moment. Now these are the seeds. They're a variety called Kelvenden Wonder, and I'm just going to scatter these all along here. I'm not too precious about trying to get these exact. Some people try and give them good distances and what have you. I'm not worried. I'm just going to cover those over with compost from the side that we've used out of the drill. Try and remove any more of these weeds as we go across, of course. There we go. There we go. Like so. Let's try and get rid of some of these weeds a bit more. Now, overwintering peas basically will give you an early crop next year. I think they are well worth growing for that very reason. And they're a good one, I think, too. We all like peas. I don't know anybody that dislikes peas. Pretty easy to grow, but they will need, when they germinate, they will need something to grow up, be it canes or anything like that. What that does, peas, as you know, they put out tendrils. Just making sure I'm not standing on a broad bean there. They put out tendrils to help them grow. And when the tendrils wrap around something, it actually encourages the flowering, which of course leads to peas. Now, most people will sow their peas in the spring, but it's also worth doing around this time. Might be a little bit too late, but if you're quick, get them in the ground, offer a bit of protection in the form of a cloche or something if need be. You should get away with some decent overwintered peas. Give it a go and let us know how you get on. Back to the podding shed.
Indeed, back in the podding shed. So peas, yeah, that was Stuart who suggested, I'm sure it was Stuart anyway, suggested sowing peas for this week's sow along, which is what we have done. I need to get some peas in the ground. But what I really want to show, I've got those broad beans in that we sowed last month, and they are decent size now, really growing well. They've got bit too big for the root trainers, so I want to get those in the ground this weekend, and they will romp away. I've seen there was a question about the high sides on that bed. Would it stop carrot root fly? I think it possibly could. I've not really grown carrots in that to test that idea out, but what I would say, if you're trying to, it might be a bit overkill to stop carrots. What I think it was Ballycillian, maybe, who grew carrots in containers and actually put those up high, a metre high, to stop carrot root fly. If you have a problem with carrot root fly, that might be an idea. Would they stop carrot root fly? Possibly. I mean, I just made those beds out of corrugated iron from my old shed because I just didn't want to waste them, and it seemed like a good opportunity. So, yeah. Would it stop? Possibly. My fear would be, the only reason I'm unsure, it would possibly stop the carrots flying up and into there, but they lay eggs in the ground, and it's possible the eggs, the larvae could still burrow underneath the bed to get into the carrot bed. I guess that would apply to anything, so maybe not. Turbo Stream says, I sowed a tray of the Meteor from the club seeds inside, 2 per cell. Wonder if they will survive outside. They are pretty tough, Meteor. I would say they would survive okay outside, unless you've got a lot of, well, a really boggy ground that you seem to have. But I would also offer them a bit of a protection in the form of a cloche or a polytunnel. Polytunnel might be a bit overkill, but a cloche certainly, just to warm them up a bit. Digwell says it's a bit of a myth about growing carrots high up to stop the fly. It only takes a gust of wind and they will land in the raised bed. That's a good point. Yeah, I've never really I've never really had much problem with carrot root fly, so I've never really had the need to test it. I think there are probably better ways of stopping carrot root fly. Growing up high is one of the ideas, but also growing them alongside onions or chives may also help, because it won't allow the smell to attract the carrot root fly. And also when you harvest the carrots as well, I believe makes a difference. Harvest early in the morning or late in the evening, again, to try and reduce the risk of carrot fly coming in. Again, I'm only going off what I've read, because I've never had any problems with carrot root flies at all in my experience. I don't know if it's because where I am on the south here, we don't get carrot root fly. I don't know much about it at all, but I just never have had a problem with carrot root fly. So I rely on you guys to share your knowledge and experience on that. Yeah. Yeah. What else have I got? Well, there was Turbo Stream was talking about this Meth's uh, stove that he uses. They mow the grass with a petrol mower, so can't really refuse me keeping 100 mil of Meth's in my shed. I mean, you make a very good point. But what I would say again, it's all about the rules of the allotment, and I go with the assumption I don't want to break any rules because I don't want to lose my allotment. So I stick, even if I don't agree with them. We've got this stupid rule in our allotment. I think it's stupid anyway, that we're only allowed 2 water butts per plot, which I think is just stupid. Just stupid. We should have as many water butts as possible because, well, it just makes sense to use rainwater. Instead, what our allotment want, our council want us to use is the water that is piped to the place that they have to pay for. I don't think it's on a meter, but they still have to pay for it. Instead of using rainwater, which falls from the sky for free and is better. I think it's just a crazy rule to only allow 2 water butts. Let me know what you think on that. I think we've discussed this before. I think it is a bit of a silly rule. Right. I'm just going over my notes of what we can do to prepare our allotments or our garden beds for winter. So we've talked about green manures. We haven't. Well, we've touched on green manures. I think would be the best thing to say. For those that don't know what a green manure is, a green manure is a plant or a seed that you might sow. It acts as like a cover crop. It grows and it protects the soil. It might add, in the case of field beans, add nitrogen to the soil. You also get this green material that adds humus, or however they pronounce it, to the soil. Or I cut it down and throw it in a compost heap to add more greens to my compost heaps. There's 2 that I like to use. I use mostly Phacelia, which is a lovely large quick growing crop. It's from the legume family, so it actually adds nitrogen to the soil, but it quickly grows. It's very good at reducing the amount of couch grass you get. Phacelia, and then we've got field beans, which are basically like a broad bean, but they're not edible. So the broad beans then the field beans then grow again. They add nitrogen to the soil. You've got to stop them from flowering, I think, in order to make it add nitrogen to the soil. They're the 2 I use, but there's also other ones such as mustards you could use. There's winter mixes, ryegrass, grazing grass, huge different wide range of green manures that can be used. Veg, of course, growing vegetables, we've mentioned that, and there's plenty of things that we can do. Compost, we've done it as well. Wood chip, plastic or weed suppressing membrane, we've discussed that. Doing nothing, and manure. So I think that is all the points that I had for this particular subject. Let's go to the comments. Now, Nicholas says that rule about 2 water butts should be challenged. I think it is a wrong rule. I really do. And I can't understand what the logic is behind doing that. Chili Kate says, I wouldn't want to lose my allotment over something silly. I'm hoping that I can take Phil's Kelly kettle and boil water from twigs and pine cones. Yeah, I love a Kelly kettle. For those that don't know, Kelly kettle, basically you've got it's like a jug. You can have a bonfire or a small fire on the inside, and the outer container has water in it, and it acts as like a kettle by burning it. It's a great piece of kit. But because it is burning, some allotments might frown on it, and I can understand why, because there's a risk of fire, of course. Ballysinian says, my raised boxes are the same as muddy boots. Dig well covered as well. Yeah, well covered as well. Yeah, sorry, I'm with you. Yeah, I thought it was you that had some up high. Be great to see your allotment again at some point with a tour or something. Nicola says, I love a Kelly kettle cake, but not got one yet. And Tabo Stream says, Normie chili cake. They're great things. I haven't had one for years. Field beans are edible, just smaller beans. You can nip the growing tips out and use as greens. I believe the beans are classed as inedible, but I'm not sure on that. You don't, if you're trying to grow field beans for green manure, you don't want them to produce beans anyway, as I understand it. Turbo Stream says weeds are good green manure. They will end up in the compost in early spring. Well, it comes back to my battle with couch grass. I want to try and reduce the couch grass. So by trying to grow green manures, I'm actually beating back that couch grass. Not perfectly, but it just gets easier and easier the more that we do this. David Williams says, not many dealings with carrot root fly, but a new addition to our allotment is the onion root fly. It's bad enough with a leafy grub thing, but the root fly is a beast. Heading north quickly, so told. Yeah, all these pests we seem to be getting more and more of these pests. I think because it's warmer, these pests are coming across from the continent a lot more. Making their way up further north. But who knows? Who knows? They might get too cold or they might adapt. We don't know. Scott says, I've sown some Phacelia today. Didn't know it was good for reducing couch grass. I might have to sow some more. I do find that Phacelia, you gotta use it in conjunction. Couch grass I found to be really difficult to get rid of. Loads of roots. So I find by growing potatoes, first of all, you dig up the potatoes, you remove some roots. Phacelia helps shade out the couch grass so it doesn't get established. It's something somebody, I'm not sure if it's, no, mustard has a fumigating effect in the soil, not Phacelia. But again, it's all these things of trying to stop couch grass works. Graham says, get 2 LBC tank. That's 2 water butts, as they don't cite. No, as they don't state the size you are allowed. No, they did state they only allowed 220 litres. They were very careful for that. What I think did it was there was a few people that had several LBC tanks on their allotment and they would fill them up from the water that was being pumped to the site. I think that is what caused the issue, why they banned water butts. But good idea otherwise. Turbo Slim says, I had the leaf miner this year in Birmingham. All my onions will now grow under mesh from now on. Gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, especially if we are, I think most of you are trying to be as organic as possible. So I think that makes sense. Stuart says, Kelly kettles are amazing things. I had 3 at school and 1 on my own. I can always make a copper. How do the kids get on with the Kelly kettle? I guess that's a question for Chili Phil as well with Scouts. How do the kids get on with it? Are they always cautious of it? Toby Stream says, I harvested field beans to eat, just like small broad beans. Okay, learned something. Now, I knew you could eat the tips, but I didn't know about the seeds, so that's interesting. Digwell says, some of the rules are founded on previous accidents or incidents. No ponds, kids drowning. Yep. Water stored too long, numerous health issues. No fire, danger to other plots. Completely agree. Completely agree. There is some logic to it. Just the lack of water butts, I think, is a silly one. If they're worried about it being health issues, water stored too long, well, then tell them they have to make a rule that you have to empty them once a year and carry it on. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I'm thinking out loud. Nicholas says, Creeping Buttercup has taken over while I've been in Sussex. It's going to be an uphill battle, but been digging down as to take as much of the root. That's a nasty one, Creeping Buttercup, because that's a bit like couch grass. It just takes over and over. But it is good at covering the soil at the same time. Digwell says, grow yellow rattle to get rid of couch grass. That's another one to use. Another green manure, yellow rattle. I don't think I've ever grown that one. I'm going to make a note. I think you've said this before, haven't you? Let's make a note of that. Yellow rattle. There we go. What else have we got? Nigel says, onion fly was discovered / identified in the Midlands quite a few years ago. There we go. We're learning something here. Turbo Stream says, some rules are daft too, Digwell. Thou shalt not. LOL. it is what it is, isn't it? I always say when it comes to the allotment, we don't own the land, we're just renting it. So we've got to try and keep everybody as happy as possible. David says apparently there's a Spanish/Mexican marigold that does for couch grass and bindweed. I've not heard of that. I mean, I know marigold has certain effects in the soil that makes it good, but not sure. Not sure. IBC industrial bulk container. Somebody asked what IBC is because I haven't seen that comment. There we go. What else have we got? Chili Phil. Our kids get on just fine with keddy kettles. They're fascinated over how it works. We teach them to respect fire from a young age so they know not to touch it outside. I've always said, same with so many things. Knives or anything dangerous, I think if you teach kids from a young age to respect it, that it can hurt you, they're less likely to mess around with it as they grow up. But also, don't sugarcoat the damage they can do. Be honest with them. Stuart says, once I have shown the children how to use the keddy kettles, they get on fine. I always get a drink, so that's all they need to know. It's all about taking it. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more because I just think we mollycoddle kids sometimes and they need to make mistakes or learn to be afraid of things in order to really respect it. Does that make sense? Digwell says it's not a green manure, it's a perennial that is parasitic on the couch grass. Okay. Might be able to do. Hargrave Gas also says yellow rattle is great, but not easy to germinate. Needs some grass present as it parasites onto that. Okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. We have to look into that in the future and see if we can test it out. Think I have the normal mesh digwell. Oh God, says Turbo Stream. Scott is loving the couch grass removal ideas. I will be trying them all. It's terrible in my plot. Everywhere that has couch grass, it is terrible. It's so invasive. But listen, I really don't mind the rules as long as everyone's made to abide them. Good point, because I've got this family literally across the road from me. I say road, track. I think they're Portuguese. They worked so hard on our allotment and what have you, but they're often down there during the week, and they like get some mackerel or something. They're smoking mackerel on their allotment and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great, but they're not abiding by the rules, which gets really annoying when I'm trying to stick to the rules. Right, let's have a look at the photos that came in this week as well. It's that time that we really should look at them. So going quick tonight again, isn't it? So first of all, Arthur has shared this rather true photo of potatoes surviving storage. If you can't read what it says normal vegetables. You must store us at the right temperature, just the right humidity, or we will rot in no time. Whereas potatoes just seem to want to grow. Ain't that true? But although I have had potatoes rot in storage, of course, but it is true. They just seem to survive. They're very, very tough tubers. Next, we have Scott has harvested some of this lovely chicory. Beautiful colours on that, doesn't it? It looks absolutely delicious and grows fantastic. And I quite like chicory. I think there's a few people that aren't too keen on the flavour, but I think the flavour from these things are just beautiful, especially used in the right way. Nicola, she's bagged herself a bargain. We've been talking about this in the past because I've got one myself, the Agrilon Plug Plant Trainer. Great piece of kit if you are starting a lot of plants from seed or taking cuttings, because the way they work and they just pop out. Very, very popular, it would seem, with a lot of people in the audience tonight who have said when I pulled mine out that they love theirs as well. So good to see. Good bargain as well. I think that was from Dobby's Garden Centre. If anybody is near a Dobby's and wants one, go and have a look. Steve or Digwell, he's got himself a new scarecrow with his Jar Jar Binks head. Does it work? Does it work? Does it scare off all the crows? Do they stay off your ground? Let us know in the comments, Digwell. Ian Beddoes, I think Ian Beddoes said he was going to be joining us tonight because of the racing being cancelled or something, but I haven't seen him. He shared this humorous sign. He said it's not hoarding if it's plants. I think that's something we can all attest to. I certainly know I've got way too many plants. Well, is there such thing as way too many? I don't know. I'll let you guys decide that. Now, Stuart, we've mentioned that he has set up a new raised bed at his school, and this is it here. Quite a decent size looking at it, and he's been planting out garlic, onions, broad beans, and peas, all for overwintering. This is, of course, what the kids are doing, and he has this routine where he just says, "Like kids, what do you want to grow? Go ahead and do it," sort of thing. So great stuff to see. Kate, last week, this is from Chili Kate and Chili Phil, actually. We were talking about comfort food recipes last week, and Kate had to go and finish off her beef stew and dumplings, and this is what she shared the photo of. Looks absolutely delicious. Some lovely carrots, swede, beef and dumplings as well. I'm getting quite hungry thinking about the food again from last week, so I'm going to have to get snacking a bit. That is it for the photos for this week. Please do keep sharing your photos. You can post them in our Facebook group, or you can send them to me via social media or email me, richard@veggrowpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@veggrowpodcast.co.uk. Yeah, please do send lots of photos in. Always happy to see them. And of course, feel free, if you do want to send a video in as well, to play in and become a veg grower reporter. I think I'm going to start calling people who send in videos or anything like that. Please feel free as well. Again, email me, richard@veggrowerpodcast.co.uk, if you need a bit more information on how to do that. Let's have a quick look in the comments. Toby Stream says, we are taught the fire skills in the clubs, the skill for life. I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more at all. Stuart Jackson says, it's more important to teach the children how to maintain and put the fire out than show them how to light it. Again, totally agree. Totally agree with that. So many things that go into it. Nicholas says you can get an organic weed killer made from geranium leaves. Really, I still have a problem with using weed killer for some reason. I can't get it out of my head that it's bad. But there are times when I think weed killer is necessary, but that's a whole other story. David says, oh, Kate, stop it. I'm starving now. And Turbo Stream, oh my, that stew, lovely. Oh, yeah, I know. Anna Jones says, I don't like chicory, but that looked fantastic. I know that's a lot of people who don't like chicory. I quite like the stuff. I think it's a bit like coriander or marmite. You either love it or hate it. Graham says, remember to hit the like button, guys, please. Yeah, please do. Give us a like. Please do give us a thumbs up. Please do give us a follow or subscribe. And please do click the notifications so that you know when we go live. For those that don't know, if I don't say that every week, I get told off from Facebook and YouTube for not saying it as well. So I do tend to say it a couple of times. Scott says, I spent the week thinking about stew and dumplings, the best comfort food, and Kate's food looks amazing. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I had stew and dumplings now. I might have to have a word with my wife for one night. Digwell says, I find chicory too bitter. I think that's what a lot of people have said about chicory. I quite like bitter food. I can eat lemons whole because I just like the bitterness. But yeah. Each to their own, as I said. There is I've got to get some of this. It's like a plant that you eat. I think you might eat the seeds of it or the fruit of it. And it changes your taste buds so that bitter food tastes sweet. I've got to try and get hold of some of this to try it out, and be a bit of fun. Um, David says I find chicory to be bitter too. So a lot of people do find chicory to be bitter. As I said, I like bitter food, so it works for me. Well, we are in the last 10 minutes of this show tonight. Well, 8 minutes to be exact. So, mission for next week. We've had 2 suggestions. One might be difficult to do. The one suggestion is to go down to my dad's and dig over or tend to his garden veg beds, which is I quite like the idea of. Or the other mission was to make a cup of tea or a cuppa on the allotment, which is difficult because of the rules that we have. Also need a seed to sow next week and a subject that you guys might want to talk about. Give us a few ideas. David says he prefers lager to bitter. Excellent. Turbo Stream says slugs like chicory, planted some and it's all gone. I think slugs like anything, don't they? Digwell says try chewing basil, then drinking coffee. Really? Does it have that effect? I'll have to try that now. That sounds fun. I'll have to try that. I'm a Guinness man myself, says Turbo Stream. Nicholas says, where's the time gone? A good question. Where is the time gone? Scott says chicory is bitter, better cooked and paired with orange citrus and duck. Good combo. Oh, lovely. What did you use yours for? What did you use your chicory in the end, Scott? Let us know. Nicholas says, make a cloche for your raised bed as another possible mission. Yeah. Chilly Phil, go and help your dad. Do a good turn. So that's 2 votes for going to help my dad. So it's definitely an idea. Stuart says, I think you should dig your dad's garden. He's going to love this, isn't he? Now Margaret's popped this one over. Nicholas says, could do cuppa, making garden allotment. The trouble is with a cuppa, it's hard to make it on the allotment. And then in the garden here at home, we can just run indoors and put the kettle on. So difficult to do. Theme for next week, seed varieties for 2024 and what time of year where I have been looking at the seed catalogues and planning what types of seeds you are sowing. I haven't had any new seed catalogues turn up, but I was thinking one day I might actually get a seed catalogue and look through it live on a show as an idea. But that could be a suggestion for next week, seed catalogues. Digwell, I've filmed 24 videos today. Any guesses on the subject? 24 videos. Cooking. It's got to be cooking, hasn't it? 24 videos. 24. Crikey, you've been busy. Very busy. Dig your old man's plot next week. He will appreciate it. So it looks like we're going to be doing Dad's garden. There we go. Winter lettuce. Winter lettuce as a seed. That's a good one. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, we'll do winter lettuce, actually. I like that. Margaret says miracle fruits, a science polum difficile. Yeah. Evergreen shrub of the family, Sepotaceae, grown for its mild fruits that makes subsequently eaten sour fruits taste sweet. And we were joking about the garden digging. Oh, well, you've said it now, Margaret. You cannot take it back. Are you, Margaret, are you saying Dad doesn't want me to dig over his garden or do anything in his garden? David said, would basil like being chewed on, though? Bet Sybil would have something to say. Oh, dear. Time flies when you're having fun. Thanks for the live. Another great one. Yeah, we are getting near the end. Hargrave says, help your dad. I should say, my dad's quite young. He's perfectly capable of digging over his own garden. He doesn't need the help. He's perfectly fit and healthy and everything. So Doesn't need help. I should explain that, shouldn't I? Stuart, subject for the next couple of weeks: how to overwinter your. He's done it again, hasn't he? He's doing two things at once. Dig your dad's bed as the mission. Dig well. Muddy Boots. Lego Star Wars. What have we got there? Oh, Lego Star Wars as a subject. And he says that's spot on. Spot on. Of course, Lego Star Wars for the 24 videos he's filmed. Crikey, you've been busy doing 24 videos with that then, haven't you, today? Stuart Jackson says, subject for the future, how to overwinter chili plants. That might be a good one, actually, as well. Winter lettuce as a seed. We've decided on that. Winter lettuce. What have we got? Graham says, bend that back next week and help Dad out. Yeah, well, right. Margaret says, you are welcome, but there isn't anything to dig. Come for coffee anyway. I tell you what, I'll come up with something to do with Dad's garden. I'll put it like that. I'll put it like that. Put the tool rack behind you straight. It is straight, actually. It is straight. It's the camera that's it's sort of, let me see. It's sort of it's got like a ball joint, and it just I set it up and it moves. I've got a heavy. I've got to find a heavy duty tripod. It is actually straight. It just doesn't look it because the camera is leaning. What else have we got? What else have we got? Lots of stuff going on. So, right, Dad's bed is the mission. We'll figure it out. So, the subject for next week, I'll have to find some seed catalogues or try and find them online if we want to do looking through the seed catalogues. How does that sound? Or do we want to do the chilies? Let you all decide on that. What else have we got? Well, loads of comments coming in. Turbo Stream says, is your dad fitter than you, Richard? Maybe he should help you then. Yeah. Chili Phil says, overwintering chili plants on my list. So interesting to hear other views. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something we could do. Definitely something we could do. Turbo Stream says it is straight. It's an optical illusion that makes it look wonky. I think if I move along, I mean, it's hard to tell, but yeah, I think it is an optical illusion / this sort of. I'll try and Digwell says it's bloody annoying. I will try and rectify that to make it look straighter for you next week. Yeah. Digwell says seeds too early for chili. Yeah, I always do chili seeds in November, December, maybe even October actually, and I've got to keep them indoors. But they do seem to do okay for overwintering and get an early start. I find anyway. What is the time? What is the time? It is 7:30, guys. So we're rabbiting on a little bit, aren't we? It is time to get out of here, head on indoors, and get in the dry. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I think we're going to do the seed catalogue. I'll put it down for the chilies, and I'll put it down for both chili overwintering chilies and seed catalogue look through. I think that'll be what we'll do for the subject next week, something along those lines. You get the idea. If anybody has any videos or anything they want to set in as veg grower reporters, please feel free on either of these subjects. Well, guys, I think it is time that we wrap up. It is gone 7:30. I've seen Digwell wants me to put a spirit level on that just to prove that it is level and film it. I will I will sort that for you. I will sort that for you and prove to you it is actually level. I know it's level because I put it on a when I put it in. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Right, guys, I will be back again next Sunday at 6. We've got plenty of content coming out during the week as well. You take care, and until next time, please take care.